Hello and welcome to episode 81 of the Wisdom from the Akashic podcast. My name is Suzie, I am your host, and I'm an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner. Today, I want to go over some of the questions I get asked a lot. I've had a lot of you reach out to me on social media and via email with various questions about Level 1 training. So Level 1 training is where everybody starts, and this is you learning how to access and how to work with your own Akashic records. And because I tend to get a lot of the same questions, I'm going to cover them here today, together with an outline of the upcoming class in September, what that's going to include, with the aim that I can then share this episode with people as and when they ask questions. I actually didn't realize I hadn't done a podcast episode on Level 1. I've got a podcast episode on Level 2 and a podcast episode on Level 3, which I'll link into the show notes below because they are the practitioner level training. So Level 2 is learning how to read for other people. Level 3 is learning how to do the healing and clearing, so the energy work for other people. So they're practitioner level programs. And my next Level 2 class is going to follow on from the Level 1 class, which is starting in September, that I'm going to be talking about today. Before I get into the questions and then the structure, I do want to recommend that before you do a class with me, you come along to one of my free workshops. I run these multiple times throughout the year. It's a really good chance for you to come and meet me, to feel my energy, to see if the way that I relay information is a good fit for you. And I'll put the link into the show notes so that you can go ahead and book onto that next free workshop, even if you can't attend live. If you're registered, you will receive an email with a link so that you can access the recording to watch back in your own time. I do recommend that everybody does that because obviously every teacher teaches differently. The second thing I would say is that there's never any mistake when the Akashic records start coming into your awareness. Okay? So if you weren't ready to start working with your own Akashic records, you would not even know that the Akashic records existed. I have lost count of the amount of time where people have come to me and they have said, never knew anything about the Akashic records, and then all of a sudden your podcast appeared on my recommended, or a post on Instagram appeared, and then I keep hearing about the Akashic records in all of these different ways. And that's very normal. This is the Akashic records finding you. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you want to go on to become a professional practitioner. That in itself is very much a calling. But I hold a very firm belief that anyone who is on the spiritual journey should learn how to work with their own Akashic records, because it's going to benefit you and help you along your spiritual journey. That doesn't mean that it's the only practice that you'll ever need, or that you're not going to benefit from learning other modalities at all. Of course, different things are going to help you at different times, but one of the amazing things about the Akashic records is that it's going to help you throughout your entire spiritual journey, wherever you are at, whatever you are working with. As part of my soul's mission here this time on Earth, it's to help as many people as possible start to work with their own Akashic records, regardless of not of whether they want to take it further. Okay, if you want to take it further, that's also great. I do the practitioner level training, but Level 1 is for everyone. Everyone has the right and the ability to work with their own Akashic records. So I get lots of questions about the Level 1 training, and I'm going to cover the most kind of frequently asked questions here. Of course, if you ever have questions about the training, you can always reach out to me via the website. I will always respond. Or of course, if you're following me on social media, you can always reach out there or come along to the free workshops. Free workshops, I always do lots of Q&A. So the first question is, do you need to do Level 1 before Level 2? Okay, so as I said, Level 2 and 3 are practitioner level trainings. And yes, you absolutely need to do Level 1 first. Now, you don't have to have done Level 1 with me, although if you have done Level 1 with somebody else, we do need to have a conversation just so that I can make sure that you've got the information and the course content that is needed to go into Level 2. But the reason it's very important to have Level 1 before Level 2 is because any work that you're going to do in the Akashic Records, it's essential that you have worked on it with yourself before you go on to work on other people and with other people. The way that my Level 1 training is set up is it covers everything that you need for Level 2 and for Level 3. So you only have to do level 1 and then you can move into practitioner training, but level 1 is the prerequisite. Question number 2 is, do I have to know which of my clair senses or which of my psychic abilities or my intuitive abilities is the strongest to start coming to work in the Akashic Records? Okay. No, you don't at all. Now, you're going to be utilizing those clair senses to receive information from the Akashic Records, but working in your Akashic Records is not the same as psychic or intuitive development. Working with the Akashic Records is a form of channeling, so the Akashic Records are outside of you, and you're utilizing your clair senses to receive the information in. Now, you don't need to know which of your clair senses is the strongest. It's going to become very apparent when you start working with your Akashic Records in respect of how you receive the information. And this, of course, is something we go into in a lot of detail in class. The third question is, do I have to be psychic, or do I have to be healed or spiritually elite or intuitive? Fill in the blank there. Do I have to be something to be able to start working with my own Akashic Records? And first of all, I don't know what it means to be spiritually elite, just as a quick caveat there. But no, everybody has the right and the ability to work with their own Akashic Records. It's not a case that you have to be fully healed or anything like that, because the Akashic Records are going to help you on that healing journey. They're going to help you with transmutation. They're going to help you with alchemy. So no, you don't have to consider yourself any of those things. As I said at the start of this episode, if they're coming into your awareness and you're feeling that pull from your magnetic center to start working with the Akashic Records, you're ready to go. Number 4 is more of a practical question, and this: are these sessions recorded? And do you have access to the recordings? So yes, they are recorded. A lot of my students live in parts of the world where, from a time zone perspective, 6 p.m. UK time doesn't work, and they will do the classes just via watching the recordings. So these recordings go into the Level 1 portal. This portal is accessible via my webpage, and it's accessible to everybody. So if you attend the live classes, you get access to the portal. If you don't attend the live class, you get access to the portal. In the portal is also any paperwork that you need. So the sacred prayer, my 101 questions, everything you need lives in that portal, and you have access to that portal for 90 days after the class finishes. So the class takes place weekly for 6 weeks. There's 6 sessions over 6 weeks. And then after that class finishes, you'll receive an email from me saying, this is the date that the portal's going to close. It's always 3 months after, usually a little bit longer. And that gives you plenty of time to rewatch the recordings, take your notes, and get back to me with any questions. For those people who are attending via the recordings only, what happens is they will email me questions about things, and then I will cover those in the live classes. There are lots of Q&A in Level 1, and that's where I cover that. So yes, the sessions are recorded. Yes, you have access to those recordings. So no problem if you have to miss a class or if you're in a time zone which is incompatible. The last question that I do get asked quite a lot is, can I guarantee that by doing my Level 1 class, you're going to get access to your own Akashic Records and you're going to be able to start working with them? And the answer to this is no. And no teacher, I believe, is ever going to give you a guarantee of access. What I can promise you is that I'm going to teach you different methods, and we're going to talk about the whole process, and you're going to have the opportunity to explain to me what is happening with your access. And if you're having any problems, we're going to work with that. The purpose of a teacher is not to give you some secret hidden method that nobody else knows about. The purpose of a teacher is to help you find your way with the Akashic Records. Okay? So no, I cannot guarantee access, but I can guarantee that I will give you complete support and guidance throughout. I have taught this class to thousands of people, and I have had hundreds of students come to me who have tried different methods and different practices and thought that they were unable to access or that they were blocked in some way. And once they've come and done the class and they've had the support of not only myself but the other students in the community, they have been able to access and they have gone on to develop their relationship with the records. So they tend to be the main questions that I get asked. As I said, if you have any questions, you want to reach out to me, drop them in the comments in the podcast episode or contact me through my website. Now I want to get into the structure of the class. So the class is 6 classes over 6 weeks. So it is quite intensive in respect of you're going to be doing a class each week. And you're also going to have homework throughout that time. Class 1 is a background about the Akashic Records, about the Akasha as a concept, and also the multidimensional nature of the Akashic Records. So you will have heard me say before, the Akashic Records are not a library in the 5th dimension, and that we don't want to restrict our perspective as to what the Akashic Records are. In Class 1, I really get into this multidimensionality so that you can expand your awareness of what the records are. This is the hardest part of the class. I get into the hardest material first, but it's so that you can really broaden your perspective as to what the Akashic Records are and how you can start working with them. And it's the foundational information that you need before you start working with the Akashic Records. In the second session, we very much get into the how-to of accessing your Akashic Records. So I teach 2 methods. One method is a meditation method, and that is for those of you who are very confident meditators. You already know how to go through the astral plane into the higher spiritual dimensions. Now, caveat here, you do not need to be a good meditator or to know what I'm talking about when I say this to do level 1. There is an alternative method that I also teach, but I do teach a meditation method for those people who want to use that as their method of accessing. For everybody else, and even for those people who choose the meditative method, I always recommend also using the sacred prayer method. Now, the prayer that I use to teach is a prayer that was given to me by the Akashic Records. This doesn't mean that my prayer is better than any of the other prayers that are out there. It just happens to be the prayer that I was given for the purposes of teaching. There are lots of different Akashic Records prayers out there, and you're going to find which prayer you resonate with. So we go through the how-to, what it's going to be like, the different energies that you can come across. We go through that structure of the Lords of the Akashic Records, the Masters, Teachers, and Loved Ones, and really give you a guide in respect of, okay, this is you're going to go in. So at the end of the second session, it's homework time, and you're going to give it a go. Okay? That third session then, when we come back, is you're going to, if you feel called to, share your experience and ask your questions. This is one of my favorite parts of this class because so many people come into this class sharing their very first time in the Akashic Records, or they've got this beautiful pieces of information through from the Akashic Records, and they didn't realize it could just be this easy. And I absolutely love hearing everybody's journey and everybody's stories, and it really helps the class as a whole, hearing different people's perspectives, because different people are going to experience the Akashic Records differently. And sometimes people will think maybe they haven't got it right, whatever that means. And then they hear somebody else sharing their experience and like, oh, I was doing it right, and I have got this. And, you know, just building people's confidence and giving them the space to really develop their own relationship with the Akashic Records and how it's supposed to look. My intention is never to make a community of little mini-me's and you should all work with the Akashic Records the way that I do. That's never the intention, and that's never a healthy way of looking at things. Your Akashic Records are yours, and you're going to develop your relationship with them as you should. And my job as your teacher is to help support you and guide you and give you little hints and tips in respective areas that you might be struggling with. The fourth session then is we start to get into the clearing and healing aspect. So we start to take our practice a little bit deeper. And again, the fourth session is the theory behind this. So we really get into an introduction of the light grid. So those 7 energy bodies, the 7 primary chakras. We really understand the theory of what we're working with when we do this deep healing and clearing work. We talk about the different levels of healing and clearing in the Akashic Records. All of this is in the 4th class. Before the 5th class, which is when we move into, okay, how do we do it? The 5th class is this very practical, how-to for the healing and clearing, so that after that 5th class, you're off and you're practicing again. So that's the homework. The 6th class is then you coming and sharing and asking your questions about what you have learned in the healing and clearing portion of level 1, and also any other questions that you have. Each of the 6 sessions is set to be around 90 minutes long, but I do always caveat that with I'm going to allow for Q&A. Okay, now I do always specify that the Q&A for the class has to be relevant to the class in respect of we need to keep on topic, but I do allow for Q&A. So I completely understand that sometimes people have 90 minutes allocated and then I go over. It's okay to just jump off the class, go to your other obligations. That's all completely fine. You can just catch up on the end. So 90 minutes-ish is the duration for the class. And if you want to take a look at the schedule for the class, if you head over to my website, you go on to level 1 and you press the book now button. What that does is it brings up the schedule for when the classes are going to take place. So this next round that I'm doing are going to start on the 11th of September, 6 p.m. UK time, and you can see the rest of the dates over on the website. It will leave the website on the 9th of September, so if you want to join this round of teaching, please do make sure that you're signed up before the 9th of September. And of course, if you're listening to this podcast episode and this round of teaching has already begun, you can join midway through if you don't mind catching up on the portal. Or if this is in a year's time, there will be a level 1 class on my website. I teach level 1 2 to 3 times a year, so there's always a class open for registration. So I hope that this has given you an overview. Of course, there are more details over on the website, and if you have any questions, please do reach out to me. This level 1 training is being done in September to October with a view to running another level 2 class, so that if you are feeling that calling to becoming a professional practitioner, you will be a qualified Akashic Records reader by the end of 2025. So level 2 is going to finish before Christmas, and then the next level 3 will be at the back end of January in 2026. I hope you found this interesting. I hope it's inspired some of you who are maybe thinking, oh, I'm not quite sure if I should do this class. I hope it's given you an overview so you can make that decision consciously. As I said at the start, a really good way to see if I am the right teacher for you is to come along to one of my free workshops and get a feel for me. And of course, bring your questions. I love nothing more than having a workshop full of people with lots of questions and being able to really talk about different things to do with the Akashic Records. So I hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to seeing you next week for the next episode.